Greetings. I am Puneet Kaur, working as an assistant professor in the Department of English at GGDSD College, Hariana, district Hoshiarpur. Today we are going to study an English poem which is prescribed in the syllabus of B.A.semester 4th of Panjab University, Chandigarh. The title of the poem is Refugee Mother and Child, written by the famous Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe. Born in 1930, Chinua Achebe was a poet, novelist, professor, and a critic. His first novel, Things Fall Apart, written in 1958, is often considered his masterpiece and is the most widely read book in modern African literature. Some of his other popular works are No Longer at Ease, Arrow of God, and A Man of the People. His literary works mainly focus on the traditions of Igbo society of Nigeria, the effect of Christianity, and the clash of values during and after the colonial era. Achebe's style was often to write about what he saw in the world around him. This is the case with the present poem, Refugee Mother and Child. The poem was written during the Nigerian Civil War, an unfortunate aftermath of the colonialism that had influenced the area. In this poem, the poet deals with the sadness of death, poverty, and the starvation of displaced people. The poet conveys this message by creating a tragic atmosphere through the introduction of shocking images and strong words, and thus bringing sadness into the hearts of the readers. So, now let us begin the poem. It is a scene of a refugee camp somewhere in Africa. The poet gives us a sensible picture of a mother and her child. Both are nameless, as is the location. Several needy individuals are tossed out of their homes because of political unrest or normal catastrophes. The displaced people are in a hopeless condition. So, the poem is No Madonna and child could touch that picture of a mother's tenderness for a son she soon would have to forget. Madonna here means Mother Mary, and child here means Jesus Christ. So, in the first stanza of the poem, the poet compares the scene of a mother holding her son in a refugee camp with the love and care which is usually depicted in all versions of Mary holding Jesus Christ in her arms. The poet states that none of the reputed depictions of tenderness could even come near the fragility and beauty of this scene of pathos and heartbreak. There are several other mothers and their kids in the same hopeless condition in the camp, but the poet attracts our attention towards this specific mother and her child. The world venerates Mother Mary and her child Jesus Christ as he is the guardian angel of humankind. Compared with this, the poet presents a poor, conventional, and an obscure mother and child. The picture of the mother and her child is more sympathetic because the mother is taking care of her son even though she knows that her child is gradually dying and it is of no use looking after him. So, in the first stanza, the poet contrasts a beautiful image with the horrible one. So, the second stanza, the air was heavy with odors of diarrhea of unwashed children with washed out ribs and dried up bottoms struggling in labored steps behind blown empty bellies. So, in the second stanza, the poet describes the atmosphere of disease, illness, and death which surrounds the refugee camp. The air is filled with smells of loose bowels of unwashed children. They are suffering from the disease of diarrhea. They are hungry and starving. The poet uses harsh words such as washed out ribs, dried up bottoms, and blown empty bellies to explain the severity of the situation. The circumstances illustrate the brutality of war and explain the lack of basic essential necessities and the lack of survival. So, in the next stanza, most mothers there had long ceased to care, but not this one. She held a ghost smile between her teeth, and in her eyes the ghost of a mother's pride, as she combed the rust colored hair left on his skull. And then, in these lines, a feeling of hopelessness pervades the air as most of the mothers in the camp have stopped to care their children. But there is hope witnessed in one mother who does not let go of her faith. The emphasis on the words, but not this one, shows the difference between this particular mother from the others and how she had not lost trust. She is the panorama of parenthood. She adores her child. Her affection for him is boundless. She has the ghost of a mother's pride in her eyes because she cannot keep her son alive. Ghost has connotation of death, and the ghost-like smile on the mother's face shows her desperation. The child has rust-colored hair, showing that he is decaying, and the poet has used the word skull to show that he is extremely sick and he is about to die. So the lines are full of the feeling of despair and hopelessness. Singing in her eyes began carefully to part it. In another life, this would have been a little daily act of no consequence before his breakfast and school. Now, she did it like putting flowers on a tiny grave. In the concluding lines, the poet discusses that the mother continues grinning or smiling broadly while at the same time combing her son's hair since she realizes that soon the child will pass on. It shows that the mother still has a tiny bit of happiness that her dying child is still alive. She is trying to avoid the feeling of sadness while she watches her son dying, trying to remember the happiness she spent with her before he got ill. So now she arranges her son's hair, which is rust colored. The relevant way in which she performs this act makes the poet reflect on how in normal day to day life such an act holds no consequence to any mother. They do it before their sons leave for school, but the manner in which this mother does it has such an air of finality to it that it is similar to laying flowers on a tiny grave. So, on the whole, the poem is full of pathos and agony of a mother who has to witness her son's death. The running theme of the poem is motherly love. I hope that all the lines of the poem are clear to you now. Thank you.